Pretty clear post-lunch haze, as always. Got to get you out of the slumber. So I'll shift that burden on to Siddharth Arora, who's the Senior Product Manager at Razorpay. And he'll be talking about digital transformation for education.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Siddharth. I work as a Senior Product Manager at this company called Razorpay. I'll give you a quick background about what is Razorpay. We are India's first converged payment solutions platform. Fancy words, obviously, so let me break it down slightly more easier and what that means. Essentially, we help businesses collect payments, reconcile payments, and disperse vendor payments. That's the essential core business that we are in. Now, the next follow-up question is, why is a company like Razorpay doing at an event like this? And I had the exact same question to my marketing team who's here. Anyways, jokes apart. One of the interesting things that why we feel that I think payments and education have something in common is I think both these industries are going through a fantastic transformation stage. Right? I think a couple of things that I'm just making, I have my phone with me, fantastic. I can at least see a couple of things. Interestingly, right, I think if you look at education industry a few years ago to what it is today, right, I think schools are no longer really competing with other schools, right? I think there are a lot of other ecosystem players that are coming into play. Things like alternative education platforms. They may specialize only in sports or specialize only in music, specialize only in foreign languages and so forth, right? So it's very critical for a school as they scale, as they onboard more and more students annually to focus on streamlining the entire end-to-end process, right? There are a lot of moving parts when you look at a school, right? There is students, there is parents, there is administrator, there is a principal, there's an accountant, there's a teacher, there's a gym instructor, there's a uniform vendor, there's an activity, bus driver, right? There are obviously a lot of moving parts, right? And when you look and you add a complexity of payments to it, right, finance becomes very critical, right? How do you ensure that somebody pays money on time and somebody receives money on time, right? With that enticing play, that's very critical, and that is where a company like Razorpay comes into play. When Razorpay got into education industry, right, this is about 2-3 years ago, right? Our entire focus was just on payments, right? How do we look at, help education platforms and schools collect digital payments? One interesting we realize, and obviously it's the most stats and research, I hope I'm not wrong, is realize that almost about 90% of private schools, collect digital payments in some form, and about 70% of state schools collect digital payments in some form. So then we realized, okay, actually, there's not really a huge value add that we will bring into play, right? Just adding another payment platform to help digital payments, right? Be it card, be it net banking, be it NEFT, RTGS, all that matter, right? We're not a value add. So what can we do? Then we dug a little bit deeper and deeper, right? We realized that actually it's not the collection of payment that's a huge pain point. Actually, it's after a payment comes in that becomes a much bigger pain point for a school. It becomes bigger and bigger as the school brings into concept of more branches, trust, regional, and then global, right? Because it becomes very, very complex. So I'll take you through a case study in terms of how we have looked at payments for obviously some of the biggest schools in the country, and obviously I'll share a couple of brands that we work with and how we have solved the problem. And so essentially, right, the way we look at payments for a school is obviously you have parents, right? Parents typically want the flexibility of making payment whatever is their preference, right? Obviously the newer generation prefers your typical online modes like cards and net banking and UPI for that matter, and slightly generation who feel a lot more comfortable. Look, I don't trust this entire payment gateway, but I know that NEFT RTGS never fails, right? It's been around for a decade or two, that never fails. The interesting challenge is when a payment comes in via cards or net banking, it's fantastic. You're able to ensure that which parent has made the payment for which student for what fee and what purpose, right? It becomes very complex when you're doing an NEFT RTGS, right? So we solve for that as well. So essentially what we have done is when a payment comes in for a student for respective fees, right, obviously they're not only paying fee in general, right? Fee typically has various cost heads. As a school gets bigger, right, you have tuition fees, you have admission fees, you have uniform fees, which are obviously slightly more scheduled, right? You know that it's a once a month or once a quarter or half year, right? Then on top of it, you have another nuance of activities fees, and you have camping fees, right, which randomly comes every now and then, right, because the student want to participate in activity, or you go on a bus trip, right? So even that fees comes in. Keeping all that in mind, the process of saying that, you know, because this fee belongs to this cost head, you just reconcile that cost head. That means there's an entire accounting and operations team that comes in, figures out, you know, which student receives payment from what parent. And then you have to bring the fact that, you know, you also have to make payments to your vendors, right? Vendors could be your bus drivers, vendors could be your activity coordinators, vendors could be even your suppliers of uniform. Yeah. So essentially what we have done is regardless of the scale of the school, right? It could be a school which is single branch, or the scale of a school which could be multiple branches through, you know, in a city or a country, adding a concept of trust. What we said that regardless of a source, right? How do we automatically tag if a parent has made a payment, how do we tag that which parent has made payment for what fee, for what student, and for what cost head, right? All that we do automatically, right? It doesn't require any manual intervention on our side, as well as the school side, as well as the accounting and the finance team side. That is one. Second thing is we're able to map each payment to respective cost head. So, you know, obviously, sometimes the cost head could be a percentage based, sometimes the cost head could be a flat fee based, right? All that rules is accounted for in our system. And finally, we're able to also manage timely vendor payments, right? So if a vendor payment, let's say, is due once a month, once every 15 days, or the 5th of every month, right? All of that is accounted for in the system. Now, the more fantastic thing is we've built this solution, designed the fact that it's actually at no cost to any school, right? The end-to-end process, we don't charge schools anything, be it for inbound payments, be it for reconciling payments, and also be it for vendor payments. We don't charge schools anything. So that's the most fantastic thing. We've partnered with some of the largest schools in the country, so I'll throw a couple of names. So we partnered with APJ schools, partnered with Bishop Cotton schools. We partnered with, I think, the entire chain of DPS Bangalore. What we've observed in some of these schools that the typical reconciliation process prior to Razorpay, a platform like Razorpay can play, would take anywhere between 8 to 10 business days, right? Depending on, say, the school. Post our system going live, it became anywhere between 1 to 2 business days. So while obviously there's no cost attached, but imagine the huge operational cost saving at the school's end, right? Those resources that you have a very big team, right, obviously can be diverted to something more critical, and obviously the process becomes a lot more streamlined. So that is what that is what we play. That's the role we play. Essentially, in terms of, I think I just like to end this, you know, on one brief note, right? You know, Razorpay has a very simple ethos, right? We power disruptors. That is why we were here. That is why we were born, and that is what we want to do. And we do feel that education is going through a fantastic change. We know that in a couple of years, you know, as per stats, almost about 30 crore or students are supposed to enroll in the school, right? So we know the scale is getting bigger and bigger, challenge is getting bigger and bigger. So we definitely want to be a part of the industry, but we definitely want to solve the most complex challenges for the school, and we want to ensure that not only do we play a role, but we also play a role that adds a huge value add to the schools, to the parents, to the students, to the administrators, and the vendors that you work with. So thanks, everyone.